Okay, welcome back. We find ourselves in game number 6. Sorry, I think I said 5 before the introduction, but this is game number 6. It's possibly the end of everything. We'll see how it goes. It's 4-1 in the favor of yoeflashWolves over Complexity Dignitas. It's a best of 9 between these two teams in the Acer Team Story Cup. And, well, let's get into the introduction. Spawning here towards the south, the red Zerg player, yoeflashWolvesian. And his opponent to the north, from Complexity Sound Blaster. I hate that that's their thing. Makes me think of like the raid call. Evil Genius's lady call. It's going to be representing both Complexity and Dignitas, the light blue Zerg player Hendralisk. Now, I gotta give it up. There's certain parts of the world that are better at certain matchups than the rest, and some metas are far behind and some are far ahead. One thing I really like out of Complexity, or not Complexity, what I'm saying here, out of Hendralisk, is he seems to be on par with like the nuances of Zerg versus Zerg. When he was playing for the WCG Canada Finals, I had the wondrous pleasure and honor of casting him, as well as for the qualifiers. And one of the cool things we got to see out of Hendralisk were combination Tunneling Claw Roaches. We got to see Locusts and Swarm Hosts and ZVZs. I mean, these were things that were strange at the time, and this was like 4 months ago, guys. Not something new, which is what people are doing nowadays. Roaches with Tunneling Claws, by the way, I do feel is pretty much the strongest way to play this matchup if you can afford to get to that scenario, but that's a lot easier said than done in a lot of situations. We'll see what ends up happening, though. Ian's shown a pretty good showing so far today. Of course, the only player on the roster of Dignitas and Complexity has been Tefl, has been able to take out anybody so far. So maybe some colluding and some fact sharing and strategies have been going on behind the scenes. We don't actually know, but you know, whether you're on the same team logistically or not, in the Acer Team Story Cup, you're all on the same team, and you got to work together to make sure that you can win. And this is looking pretty dire, but of course, in the Acer Team Story Cup, what's really nice, and I'm not sure if I've said that name enough. Should I say it again? Acer Team Story Cup? Acer Team Story Cup. Acer Team Story Cup. There's a lot of games to be played. You'll play every other team at least once, so we're gonna get to see yoeflashWolves, we're gonna get to see Complexity Sound Blaster many more times in the future, and versus teams like Acer, Team Liquid, Axiom, you know, Empire ends, or well, it's not Empire ends this season, I think it's just Empire. So I mean, there's a lot more to be had and a lot more to be seen. So regardless of whether this turns around to an all-kill or reverse all-kill or something, or whether it's Ian just closing it out for his team, what's nice is we know that we're going to get a lot more both of these teams, and ideally both of these players in the future. Overlord's having a little bit of breaking physics. You can't fit in one another. It doesn't work like that. Couple things we come across the map is the opening here, though. Hendralisk, of course, does take his gas a little bit sooner than that of Ian, who has, again, been playing gasless a lot today, so this is not at all surprising to me. It's really hard to apply pressure to a player who can scout you. If you're going to go for gas, if you're going to go for speedling all-in, Hendralisk actually going to go for +1. Ooh, I like this a lot. So I didn't point that out sooner. +1 is probably the biggest deal as far as critical upgrades go in the ZVZ matchup. For those who don't know what a critical upgrade is, there's different types of upgrades, and I'm sure that's not the official term, but I think I heard Jack Attack or somebody say it one time, so I've said it ever since. If you have an upgrade that changes the amount of attacks it takes to kill something, that's pretty much a critical upgrade. Zerglings with armor versus other Zerglings, that's not a big deal. You know, you'll win the Zergling fight, sure, but what this allows them to do is you can actually soak a Baneling hit, and you live with 1 health afterwards. So your Zerglings will continue to rain havoc and live to see another day. So if it's going to be Banelings at all out of Ian, Hendralisk will have the upper hand in this regard. It's kind of important that he didn't let that Ling get by. Trying to get this other one to stop from seeing. I don't know. Did he see the evolution chamber? That's going to be really important. No. Good denial out of Hendralisk. Seeing the gas is a little bit worrisome. But as a Zerg player who plays gasless, you can kind of expect there's going to be gas down for your opponent. Or at least if there is, that you're not going to have to overreact. A Spine Crawler's coming down. Evolution chambers if necessary. A Roach Warren even. But the nice thing about this Armor Carapace upgrade too is even if there's no Banelings, even if none of the Zerglings get any benefit out of this whatsoever for Hendralisk, this will transition into the Roaches. This will pass that armor upgrade on later, so it will be effective for the entire game for everything that happens. Unless it goes to Muta versus Muta or something silly, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Yeah, I don't know. Ian, it's going to be about scouting right now. He sees the third base coming down of Hendralisk. He may think Hendralisk is going towards that faster layer because of that earlier third, but you know and I know and we know, it's our little secret, there's a lot of Lings coming out right now, and it's important that he hides these. He cannot reveal these too early. If an Overlord sees them, Hendralisk will be in a lot of trouble. This is why you'll see some players, by the way, send their queens off of creeps specifically to snipe off one Overlord, like this one here. That way Hendralisk can run through the middle of the map and hopefully get caught, or go by sort of undetected. But Roaches are going to have 1-1 here for Ian. Hendralisk is looking pretty good as far as his opening goes here, but I don't know that he can really bust through this wall anytime soon. Even with the +1 armor carapace, which is nice, whatever, he's not going to have anything that can deal with a full wall off. And he realizes this too, so he's actually going to start investing into Roaches here. +1 weapon attacks for both players, so it's going to be 1-1 eventually, but that's a lot of Lings coming across the map. And he's hoping blindly that Ian didn't wall this off, but Ian's already set to go. And again, Ian plays gasless. If Hendralisk was watching these games, and I gotta be honest, I kind of think he wasn't, he would have known that this is how Ian's been playing like every series so far, as far as his opening skill. But all 4 gases taken now, not looking to go for layer tech, but instead just taking a lot of gas to get a lot of Roaches to allow that tech to continue up. I mean, he's comfortably on layers, so he'll have speed going for him. Is Hendralisk on layer yet? No, he's actually not on layer. So if it comes to Roach versus Roach, it's really hard to fight when you don't have speed. You're not going to be able to run away, you're not going to be able to disengage, and your opponent's always going to have the positional advantage on you. That's the advantage of a movement speed upgrade. So, I mean, right now, this is looking bad for Hendralisk, I'm not going to lie. He doesn't have anything to contend with the Roaches. If you can catch them in small clumps and away from walls, Zerglings with a surround can actually beat out Roaches, but it's going to require Ian to be in the middle of nowhere, just like he is right now, and have, well, quite frankly, far fewer Roaches. So, Hendralisk is going to disengage from this. Meanwhile, looking to try and find an opening nonetheless. I kind of would almost love if he would send 2 Lings to the back and start chipping away at the rocks or something. Nothing too dedicated, but just a couple of units. His own layer's on the way. He is behind. This is what's really scary. He's really far behind in that regard, but I think if he can get his own Roach count up soon, he can actually take a fight. Because again, the nice thing about Zerglings, even if you don't have like a lot of damage invested in them, you don't have weapon upgrades, they can actually provide a lot of assistance to Roaches. Again, if you've got Roach numbers, like let's say imaginary numbers here for a second. Ian's got 20 Roaches and Hendralisk has 15. These amount of Lings will win Hendralisk the fight. These amount of Lings would win Hendralisk the game, quite frankly. But supply count's surprisingly even. Of course, Hendralisk has a few more drones. Kind of where the big focus is. Gonna try and snipe off this third. Does force cancel, gets the drone, but needs to start heading back home. His Roaches also can't fight here. This is a very awkward engagement for him, and he doesn't have the numbers to fight this. He's got a nice concave to start though, but the Lings are so far away. If the Lings get back involved with this, Hendralisk can certainly win this fight. But oh man, Ian's got so many Roaches here, and more coming in from behind. Hendralisk got to get these Lings over to the main fight. They'll quit wasting them on those 2 Roaches coming in, but is it going to be too late? They do manage to chase these down. They get a nice attack here on top of these. Spinecrawler is going to try and reposition, but I think Hendralisk should be able to hold for now. It's 13 Roaches to 20. He's still not in a great spot, but he needs to get more of his own out. Defender's advantage is going to be a big deal. He is overextending, and he realizes this too, so he backs up immediately. 2 Spinecrawlers are going to mean the world of difference when it comes to fighting Roaches. Even if you only have 1 involved with a fight, a Spinecrawler does double the damage of a Roach, and it has a hell of a lot more HP. Repositioning some of them and trying to build some more in the natural. I don't know. This is going to be rough. Gets a nice snipe here with a couple of the Roaches. He's picking off some of Ian's. Ian's bleeding. He's out, but Ian's also on his way to 2-2. If Ian can keep trading out evenly and dancing back and forth, he'll have the upgrades over Hendralisk, which will make the mid-game almost... well, almost impossible, but very difficult for Hendralisk to overcome. Still chasing down the middle of the map. His Lings have kind of extended this, or become expended at this point. There we go. Trying to speak. His Roach count's not looking too bad, but he's got to back away from this. The army supply is looking pretty even, but this is not a fight he wants to take. Top of the ramp, the concave in the favor of Ian, now giving pursuit, now giving chase, and Hendralisk, oh no, like I said earlier, still doesn't have speed, and this is what I was talking about. It's so hard to chase down other Roaches, and you can't disengage either if you don't have your own Galil reconstitution. But Roach speed unavailable for Hendralisk. He does manage to find a way to disengage off of this. Ian could have abused that a little bit, maybe gone for some hit and run, but decided to play it safe instead. 2-2 still halfway through finish, but once that kicks in, it's going to be very difficult for Hendralisk to take uneven fights. He has to have a positional advantage, and he'll have to have the numbers advantage. He's got a lot of Spinecrawlers down, too, so if he can force a defensive fight and go for a counterattack, that might be his best bet. He's still needing worker supply, so his economy's looking really darn good. The further this gets into it, the better he's going to be off. But again, he needs to buy time till his own 2-2 is out. And with only 1 evolution chamber, oh god, only 1 evolution chamber. It's going to be 2-1 versus 2-2 eventually, if it gets to that point. But Lings coming out en masse. Again, I really like the incorporation of Lings. You don't want to invest too many, but even just small amounts like this, I should hesitate to call this a small amount, but medium-sized amount of Lings like this will be really nice. But giving them away to the Roaches for free, not something Hendralisk can afford to do. I don't know. The spine crawlers, again, I like the spine crawlers a lot. But the problem is, forcing a defensive fight is not easy. A lot easier said than done. Because Ian's not going to be stupid enough. He's not going to be brazen enough to run in there and fight a bunch of spine crawlers. But Lings, once again, trying to find their way here. We do have Tunneling Claws and Burrow on the way for Ian. And this is where I was talking about Roach versus Roach. Sort of becomes that pent ultimate composition. It's not so much about the Burrow as a sneak attack move as it is for a lot of healing. And the Tunneling Claws allows you to sneak a couple roaches, 4 to each mineral line. You start sniping off drones with the main fights going on. Hendralisk has got numbers though, guys. He's got 55 roaches over 49. He's got Lings for cannon fodder as well. In a head-on engagement, A move versus A move, yes, it's 2-2 for Ian, but Hendralisk should be able to take a decent fight if he gets the concave. But that's a pretty big ask, and it's a pretty big if. Splitting up the forces for both players though. Roaches to the north, trying to split up with the roaches to the south. Ian's going to try and respond, but actually Hendralisk moves into a spine crawler, focuses that down immediately, and now he's got a nice start to this. Supply count's definitely still in the favor of Hendralisk, 42 to 51 and dwindling though. The spine crawlers are gone, but that 2-2 starting to really show off, and 15 Lings struggling to get involved with this fight. Hendralisk is trading out pretty nicely though, 34 roaches to 25. This fight is getting down to the wire. Ian needs to get some reinforcements in right now. Some roaches are about to pop from this base, but will it be soon enough? 34 roaches over 17. Despite the upgrade disadvantage, Hendralisk takes a really nice fight around this third. Still scrapping out though, Ian's not done. His defender's advantage kicking in as the roaches start spawning and the roaches start getting on top of this. Hendralisk's roach count still ahead, surprisingly enough, but they're across the map. They're not here with a fight. So unfortunately, forced to try and disengage. 28 roaches to 26. Getting pretty even. Falling back off of this. No Lings to really buffer for anything anymore. And no level 2 armor upgrades on the way. So this gets rougher and rougher for Hendralisk because there's Burrow available for Ian. He can burrow and heal all of these roaches pretty much instantaneously. He can Tunneling Claw to try and sneak past this Overseer, and that's exactly what he's going to do. 4 roaches. Like I said, you send 4 roaches to each mineral line. You just unburrow them and force attacks elsewhere so your opponent can't respond. Ian's going to have a smaller army, so he can't actually fight this head-on, but the point is to keep Hendralisk distracted, as Hendralisk is going to lose a ton of drones in a moment's time, both at the natural and the main. If he loses the Queen's top, that's dangerous too. Army supply is still surprisingly even, but that's roaches for you folks, and looks like the drone counts are starting to dwindle, albeit slowly but surely. As the roaches did sneak past, he actually pulls all the drones out. I like this move towards the third into the natural to buy himself a little bit of time to respond. Overseer morphing in right now, but Queen died in the main, unfortunately, so that's one less inject going off. Spine Crawler is repositioning behind the mineral lines, anticipating that to be the sort of sneak attack move, but it's a full-on engagement. Ian inside Hendralisk's third is going to get surrounded upon and still forced to fight within the spine crawlers, but the base gets sniped and the third base falls. Not looking too good for Hendralisk in that regard. It's rough, it's rough. He's still bleeding out towards the natural base, slowly but surely. He doesn't have his own burrows, so he can't hide the drone, sadly. A couple roaches are going to try and deal with this, but I don't think he's enough at home to defend. Spine Crawler is going to reposition, but will that even be enough? Still giving full chase across the map. This army is hard to gauge, guys. It's looking really scary for Hendralisk, but Ian just burrows and he heals up. He'll unburrow and suddenly have us around. The concave will go in his favor as he sneaks on past. Why should I take that back? No concave. He didn't split up. Overseers are here to detect the burrow, though, and looks like Hendralisk's numbers are actually looking pretty good on this side of the map. Back at home, though, he's bleeding out still. These roaches have not been dealt with. He's lost upwards of 26 drones so far. He's, is he going to win this roach fight? It's looking scary. Ian's got, again, some of his supplies across the map. It's not actually over here. So Hendralisk's forces are looking pretty good. At this point, Ian's going to have to trickle into this. If Hendralisk can snipe off this Roach Warren and cut out the reinforcements from Ian, he's going to be in such a good spot. Now, of course, Ian can remake that Roach Warren, but Hendralisk, oh god, he just lost his main while this is going on. 3 roaches cleared out the mineral line. So what else was left to kill but other than the hatchery? Lair falls now on 1 base mining. Can he pull this off? This is so desperate. Ian is struggling to stay afloat. He has to make Lings. It's all he can really do right now. Roach Warren is on the way, but Hendralisk is looking pretty commanding as far as his position within the natural base. It's looking like Complexity may be able to bring this back and bring us game number 7 at this rate, guys. It's getting really freaking close. Very scary here. Drones in the main are going to be pulled. Natural base falls for Ian. Hendralisk evens it up. Well, not evens up, but now it's 2 bases to 1. So not nearly as far as behind as he was. I don't like this fight he's forcing at the ramp, though. He could have taken this third, or the natural, and gone towards the third, but instead forces to fight himself within the drones. He's losing his roaches out at this point. Supply is going to be dwindled. Good game is going to be called. That looked so good for a second. That looked really good for a second, but he lost everything. Everything. And that means that's going to be 5-1 in the favor of yoeflashWolves.